Hello everyone, my name is Michael and I am the Crafty Crocheter, and today I will show you how to conquer one of the most difficult stitches in the crocheting world, aka the Jasmine Stitch. When I first encountered the stitch, I was a little thrown off where to insert the crochet hook to join the puffs together to get that shape. But once I figured out where the crochet hook was to be inserted in between each puff and every subsequent puff, then I got it down and mastered it. So today I'm going to show you how to do that. And I first worked on the stitch, or challenged myself to the stitch, when I came across another YouTuber's video on the top 10 hardest stitches to do, and I replicated that challenge in one of my earlier videos, and I'll leave a link to that in the description so you can check it out for yourself. And here is the swatch I did for that stitch earlier. It's in my thumbnail, but I thought I'd show it to you. And see how you see all the little the petals and the hexagonal shape once you work the stitch. And I will show you how to work that stitch. And for the tutorial, I'm going to use a size H hook, or 5.0 millimeter hook, and some solid color yarn. This yarn I used was, as I posted in my previous video, for the bunny rabbit stitch. It's that pink ombre. It's a jazzy pink ombre from Red Heart. So I would suggest trying that out. But I will use a solid color for this tutorial for the Jasmine Stitch. So without further ado, if you have your hook ready, you have your yarn ready, let's go ahead and get this crocheting party started. Okay everyone, so I'm going to jump into how to create the Jasmine Stitch. And again, and this stitch looks the same on either side, so for this there really is no right or wrong side when working with this stitch. And then again, you'll see all the petals, and then you see the outline of the hexagon for each one, so that's how you know that it's worked properly. And then again, in my previous video when I worked with the stitch, my swatch was all discombobulated and it looked nothing like this. But once I figured out where the crochet hook was to go in between every puff on the base row and every subsequent puff after that, and just repeat, then I was able to master it. So I'm going to show you what I've done to conquer this stitch, and so that way, if you, the viewer, want to try the stitch out, you'll have an idea of what to do to make this come out on the first try, or at least it takes a couple of tries for it to get it correctly. It took me 3 times before I actually got the basics and the mastery of it down. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that with you. And then for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use a size 5.0 millimeter hook, or an H hook, for this. And then I'm going to use a solid color yarn. I'm using this light green yarn. So there really is no multiple per se for the base row for this stitch. You're working in puffs, and it depends on how wide you want your project to go, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to do 6 puffs as the base, and I'll show you how to work that. And so with every crochet project, you always want to start out with a slip knot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, get that established now. So once you have your slip knot on the hook, you're going to chain one more. But and then once you got that chain established, you're going to pull out the yarn a little bit, just maybe about an inch, about a half an inch to an inch, depending on how big you want your puffs to be. So then you're going to yarn over, and then insert your hook into the very first chain, and then you're just going to pull through. So then you'll have 3 loops in the hook, and you're going to do this 2 more times, which will bring you to a total of 7 loops altogether. So I'm going to go ahead, yarn over again, insert your hook into that same chain, and then yarn, pull through. You'll have 5 loops on your hook, and then yarn over one more time, go through the same chain again. Make sure I'm in there. Yep, there we go. And then pull through again. So then you'll have a total of 7 loops on your hook. Once you have 7 on your hook, you're going to yarn over again, and pinch and hold this end hold this end of the yarn down, because if you don't, then it's just going to pull right through when you're pulling this through. So I like to yarn over from the front. You can yarn over from the reverse side, but I've had better luck doing it from the front side. And make sure you have this yarn under your thumb to hold it in place, and then you're just going to pull this loop of yarn through all 7 loops. And then once you have that through all 7 loops, and then make sure you take your hook and insert it through that loop of yarn that you held when you were pulling that yarn through for the puff. Then you're just gonna pull this strand of yarn through this loop, and you're basically working a slip stitch, so you're pulling through both of those loops. And then you'll see these 2 loops here. And then once you have that done, you're gonna chain 1, and then you just created your first puff. So to create the second puff, you're gonna pull the yarn out a little bit more, like you did when you first established the first puff. Then you're gonna do the same thing. So you're gonna yarn over, put your hook in between the slip stitch. That's how I figured out where that goes to make the puffs tighter. So once you have that hook into that space, you're gonna pull through, and then you'll have 3 loops in the hook. You're gonna yarn over again, go through that same space right here, and you'll have 5, and yarn over one more time, go through that space again, then you'll have 7, and then you're gonna yarn over again. Make sure to hold this strand of yarn towards the bottom over here, and then pull the yarn through all 7 loops, making sure you're holding onto that piece of yarn. And then once you have that loop out, you're gonna insert your hook into that loop of yarn that you held when you were pulling this top strand through the 7 loops. Then work a slip stitch through these 2 loops here, and then you're gonna chain 1, and then you're gonna repeat this process until you get to the size you want. So I'm gonna create 4 more puffs off camera, and so when I get to the last puff, I will show you what to do next. Alright, so we got to the last puff. I'm like I said, for this demonstration, I'm only doing 6 puffs, and you see how it kind of resembles a scorpion tail, the little bumps. But this is what this should look like when you have your base row established for the Jasmine Stitch. So I'm on the last puff now. So as with any other puff, once you have these two loops here, you're going to chain 1, and we're going to create what's called an anchor puff, and that's going to be your transition to the next row. So work this as before. So you're going to pull the yarn through until you get to the desired length you want. Then yarn over, and then you're going to insert your hook into that space where the slip stitches were worked, right past the puff. Then that's 1, and you're going to do this 2 more times. 2, and then into that space, and then you'll have 7 loops on the hook. Then you're going to yarn over. Make sure you hold on to this bottom part, and then pull the yarn through all 7 loops. And then you're going to, as before, work a slip stitch through these 2 loops. And then chain 1 again, and pull to the desired length you want. So we're transitioning to row 2. So the next thing you want to do is you're gonna do the same thing as you did for the stationary puffs, but you're not gonna increase the length of it. We're gonna work into the areas through here, here, and here, and you're gonna do that several times until you get to the end. So once you have your anchor puff created, you're gonna pull the yarn out to the length you want. Then you're going to yarn over and insert your hook into that space where the slip stitch was worked past this cluster of loops. That's 1. Then you're going to do this 2 more times. 2, 3, but don't put the loop of yarn through here. So what we're going to do next is you're going to go into the next subsequent space, which is right here where my index finger is, and you're going to yarn over and insert the hook in that space, and you're going to pull up, and you're going to do this 2 more times, so you'll have a total of 6 loops on your hook at that point. 2, 3. Then you're going to do this 1 more time for the next space, which is right here, and again yarn over, go into that space and pull through. You'll have 2 loops, and then you're going to do that again 2 more times. Alright, so after that you should have a total of 19 loops on your hook, and the reason I kind of like using this hook is because it's extra long and it allows you to gather all those loops on the hook. But you can use a standard crochet hook, or you can also use the Tunisian crochet hook if you have difficulty keeping the loops on the hook. So then once you have all of your 19 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over, make sure you pinch the bottom, hold this bottom part here, because you're going to be pulling this yarn through all of these loops. So make sure you have a secure fit on there. You have this secure, so that way you don't lose the yarn at all. So just carefully pull through all of the loops, and then sometimes I like to make sure my hook isn't being snagged on any strands of yarn. Sometimes that does happen. And then once that loop comes out of that side, you're gonna take this loop and insert it into this loop that you used to hold the yarn down, and you're gonna do the same thing. Make sure it's kind of a little tight, not tight, but tight enough to where it's not gonna unravel. Then you're gonna do a slip stitch through both of these loops. Then make sure you tighten it a little bit, and you kind of see right here how those petals are starting to form as a result. Then once you have the slip stitch worked, you're gonna chain 1, and then you're gonna pull this yarn up to the desired length you want, and then you're gonna repeat this process until you get to the end of the chain, and I will work another repeat with you, and then I'll let you work on it from there. So once you have your length of yarn that you want, you're going to yarn over and go into the space where these 3 clusters of petals were formed, and you're going to pull through, and there's 3, and you're going to do that 2 more times. That's 5, then that's 7, and then you're going to go into the next space, which is right here where my right index finger is, and you're going to pull up 6 loops on the hook. So you're going to yarn over, go into that next space, pull through, and that's 2, yarn over again, that's 4, yarn over again, and then that's number 6, and then you're going to do that 1 more time in the next space, which is right here where my index finger is, my right index finger is. You're going to yarn over, go into that space and pull through. You'll have 2 more loops, yarn over, go into the space, pull up, that's 4, yarn over, go through, and that's 6, and then and again at this point you should have 19 loops on your hook, as we did for the previous cluster of petals. Then you're going to yarn over, make sure to hold this bottom part of the strand of yarn. Then you're going to pull this carefully through all of these loops. And sometimes I like to check my work to make sure that my yarn isn't being snagged on any other loops. And then once that loop comes out the other side, you're going to take your hook and go into that loop from where you held it with your thumb, and you're going to work a slip stitch through both of these loops. And then once that's done, you're going to chain 1 to start your next cluster. And I'll do another repeat, and then I'll let you work on that until the very end, and then I'll show you what to do on the end. So again, pull up the yarn to the desired length you want, and then you're going to work you're going to yarn over and pull through 3 more times through this space where these 3 clusters of petals were formed. So yarn over, go into the space, pull up, that's 3, yarn over, go through the space, that's 5, yarn over, go through the space, that's 7. And I know tension's important here, see how it's kind of loose right here, but this will form itself together. So again, into the next space, which is right here, you're gonna yarn over insert your hook into that space and pull through 3 times. One, that's 2 loops, yarn over, go into that space, pull through, that's 4, yarn over, go into that, yarn over, go into that space, pull through, and that's, get some more yarn, and that's 6. So right now, then you have 13 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over again, go into the next space, which is right here where my left index finger is, right here. Yarn over, go into that space, pull through for, that's 2, yarn over, go into that same space again, pull through, that's 4, yarn over, go into that space, pull through, that's 6. So now at this point you should have 19 loops on your hook, and as before, you want to yarn over and hold this piece down here with your thumb, and then you're going to carefully pull this top strand of yarn through all of those loops. And again, I like to gauge where my hook is so I don't encounter any issues with it snagging on any of the loops inside. Then work it, and then with these 2 loops here, you're going to work a slip stitch. And I like to adjust my tension a little bit so it's a little tight, neater. And then you're going to yarn over and chain 1. So at that point, it's going to be pull the yarn to the desired length you want, and then yarn over and pull through this space where the 3 clusters of petals were made 3 times for 7, and then go into the next space here, and then pull through, it works, and pull through 6 loops on your hook, and then after that go into the next space, and then yarn over and pull through this 3 times, so you'll have a total of 19 loops on your hook. And then once you have your 19 loops on the hook, you'll yarn over and pinch the bottom of that strand of yarn so it doesn't get away from you. Then you're going to pull through all 19 loops, and then once you have that loop through all 19 loops, you're going to form a slip stitch with the strand of yarn that you held when you were pulling those loops through. And then once you have that slip stitch worked, then you'll chain 1 and repeat from there, and then I will let you work the rest of the way there. And if you have any issues with that, go ahead and rewind the video and go through that again, so that way you know where to insert the hook and how and where to work the petals. And then once you have that done, I'll meet you at the end and show you what to do to finish the row. Alright, so we're near the end of the second row, and then you'll notice how there's no puff to the left, but I will show you how to finish off the row. So you're going to work this as you normally did in the past couple puffs. So yarn over and pull through this 3 times to that space, 3 times. Three. Be careful not to get snag on any of these puffs, because that can be easily done. Then you're going to go into the next space here where my left pointer finger is, and you're going to do yarn over and pull through that 3 times. 1, yarn over, go to that space, pull it through, that's 2, yarn over, go to the space, pull up, that's 3. So since we don't have a space right here, you're going to work your next 6 into the starting chain stitch of your foundation row. So you're going to yarn over and go into that, or try to find that to the best of your ability, because it can be kind of tricky to find it. Then you're gonna, I should yarn over first. Then you're gonna, yeah, I already did yarn over. So go to that space, that's 1, yarn over, go to that space, that's 2, yarn over, go to that space, that's 3, and then you're gonna pull. Don't forget to pinch down the bottom when you're pulling this through, or otherwise you may lose your work here. Good thing I caught myself there. And then, so make sure I go through all of the loops. Again, I like to gauge my work so I know where I'm at. I might have to redo this again if I get messed up somewhere. kind of frog that for a second. I think and make sure you count your stitches, make sure you have the right amount, and I do. I'm going to try this one more time. There we go. And, oh, I didn't yarn over, did I? No, I did not. Oh, yes, I did. 1, 2, and you yarn over because that is going to 3. Make sure pinch and pull through all of these loops. Again, I like to finesse it along so that way I know where I'm at as far as where the yarn is. Oh, let's see, this little piece is snagged right here. There we go. There we go. Now I just work the slip stitch as before. Sometimes you have to do a little finagling and finessing. Alright, then chain 1 and slip through. So that is your second row completed. And once you get past the first 2 rows, it gets easier from there, because this first transition is a little bit trickier because you're dealing with this end with no puffs in between. So then to start the third row, you're gonna, after you get that slip stitch done, you'll chain 1 and pull up as before, get to the desired length, and then on this third row we're gonna create our anchor puff like we did when we transitioned from the first row to the second row. So you're gonna yarn over, go through the space again after that puff. So that's 1, yarn over, go through, that's 2, yarn over again, go through, that's 3. Then you're gonna yarn over, make sure you got that yarn held on the bottom, and pull through all 7 loops, and then insert your hook into this loop that you used to hold the yarn down. You'll have 2 loops in the hook, and then 2 loops on your hook, and then you're gonna perform and work a slip stitch through those 2 loops, and then you're gonna yarn over and then chain 1. Now we can turn our work, and since we have our anchor puff done, we're gonna work our 7 loops into this space, where the slip stitch was worked, to anchor the next 7 loops. So insert your hook into, after that space where the slip stitch was worked on your anchor puff, yarn over, pull through, that's 3, yarn over, pull through that, insert your hook into the space, pull through, that's 5, yarn over, go to that same space, pull the yarn through, that's 7. But you don't want to pull any yarn through here because we're creating the petals. So for the next space, which is going to be right here, right where my left thumb is, you're gonna yarn over, and then insert your hook through that space, and then pull through a loop, and you're gonna do that 3 times total. So I got 2 more times to do this, 2 and 3, and that's your total of 6, which would be at 13. And then for the next space, which is right here, you're gonna yarn over, insert your hook into this space where my left thumb is, and you're gonna pull through 3 times total for 6 more loops. Yarn over, go into that space, pull through, that's 2, yarn over, go through that space, pull through, that's 4, yarn over, go into that space, pull through, that's 6. So then you'll have your total of 19 loops on your hook. And then you're going to do the same thing as you did for row 2. Yarn over, hold the yarn on the bottom right here, and then pull, get some more yarn. Then you're going to pull your yarn through carefully through all of those loops, and then again I like to monitor where my hook is or where the yarn is that I'm pulling through, so that way I don't get snagged on anything. Then once that loop comes out of the other side, take your crochet hook and insert it into that loop that you used to hold down the yarn with. Then you're going to work a slip stitch through these 2 loops, and you can adjust it for tightness so it's a little bit more elegant. Then yarn over and chain 1, and then you're going to repeat this process until you get to the very end. And then and then from here you're going to yarn over and pull through the space where the three clusters of petals were formed. You're gonna yarn over and insert your hook and pull through the yarn 3 times total, so you'll have 7 loops on your hook. Then go into the next space where the clusters were created, where my left thumb is. Insert your hook there and loop through 3 times, and you'll have 13. Go into the next space, do the same thing, then you'll have a total of 19 loops, and then you're gonna hold and then yarn over, hold the yarn on the bottom, and pull the yarn carefully through all 19 loops. And then once you have that looped through all 19 loops, you're going to work a slip stitch into the loop of yarn under where your thumb was to hold it in place. And then once you work your slip stitch, you're going to chain 1 and keep repeating that until you get to the very end. So I can work one more repeat with you just so you can see what I am referencing. So yarn over, go into the space where those 3 clusters were created, that's 3, yarn over, go to that space, that's 5, yarn over, go through that space, pull through, that's 7, go into the next space, but yarn over, go into the next space, pull through, that's 2, yarn over, go to the space, pull through, that's 4, yarn over, go into that space, pull through, that's 6, so you have 13 at this point. Then yarn over, insert your hook into the next space in between the clusters of petals, pull through, that's 2, yarn over, pull through, that's 4, yarn over, pull through, that's 6. So at this point you'll have a total of 19 loops on your hook. Then yarn over, hold the yarn at the bottom, and make sure you have that secure grip on it. Then you're going to take your yarn and carefully pull that through all 19 loops. And then again, I like to monitor where my hook is so I'm not snagging it on anything. Then once you have that loop on this side of the hook, and insert it into that loop that you used to hold the yarn down with when you were pulling that yarn through those loops. Then work a slip stitch, and adjust for tension, and then yarn over and chain 1. Alright, so then once I'll let you work on that, and if you have any issue with that, go ahead and feel free to rewind this video, go to where I started that this is a repeat, and then work that through until you get to the very end, and I'll show you what to do when you get to the very end of row 3. Okay, so we're nearing the end of round 3 and of row 3, excuse me. And then you see how there's no extra puff to go in between, but you have this space here, and this space over here. And the space I'm referring to is the space in between these 2 puffs. You would insert your hook into this space for your third cluster of your third petal. So you work as before. Make sure you loop after you chained 1, pull your yarn to the desired length you want, and then you're going to yarn over and then go through this space up here 3 times total. 1, 2, 3, and that'll be a total of 7 loops on your hook. Then go into the next space right here and yarn over and go into between that space and pull the yarn through 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and that's 13 loops. And then for the last space, if you flip your work over, you see these two sets of petals. You'll see a little space right here that's holding the 2 puffs in place. You're going to insert your hook through here and work your final 6 loops. So you're going to yarn over, go into that space between the 2 puffs to the best you can. Then you're going to pull through that space for 2, yarn over, go into that same space again, that's 4, yarn over, and then go into that same space again, pull through that 6, and at the point you should have 19 loops on the hook. Then you're going to yarn over, make sure you hold this bottom part of the yarn, and then carefully pull this yarn through all of the 19 loops. Again, monitor where your crochet hook is, and then once you have that loop on through all those loops, you're going to take your hook, insert it into the loop that you used to hold down the yarn with, and then work a slip stitch through those 2 loops, and then chain 1. And that's basically, and then you'll repeat the process until you get it to the height that you want for your project. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I only did my base foundation row of 6, and then I worked the petals for 2-3 rows. And then let's just say this is done. And if you want to fasten it off, just make sure you have your yarn long enough for that. And then I like to do the so I've already chained 2, so you have chain 2, then pinch and pull, and that creates a secure knot. And then you see how beautiful that turned out with these little these petals and the hexagons. And the key here, tension is key, because there was a little bit right here that was loose, but if you're more of a loose crocheter, then that shouldn't be much of a problem for you. But I tend to be more of a tighter crocheter, so for me didn't prove to be difficult, but there were some parts where I felt like I could have done better with my tension, like I did with this swatch here. You can see how tighter that is. And then, as I mentioned before, this looks the same on both sides, so there really is no right or wrong side to this to this swatch or this fabric when you work with this stitch. And then once you're done with that, you can just like weave these ends in any way you like. And that is how you work with the Jasmine Stitch. Again, if you have any further questions or comments or concerns, you can ask me in the comments, or feel free to rewind through this video to where I say this is a repeat, and then it shows you how to work every cluster of petals for the stitch. All right, and that is the Jasmine Stitch. All right, I hope that everyone enjoyed this video, and I hope that this video has aided you in the process of learning the Jasmine Stitch, or to work the Jasmine Stitch, because like I said, it's one of the hardest stitches to implement in the crocheting world. So once you conquer this stitch, you can feel like you're on cloud 9, that you can conquer the world, and you can brag to your friends and say, oh, I conquered one of the most difficult stitches that there is in crocheting. And then you'll get some street cred from your buddies. So anyway, I appreciate all of my subscribers who have recently subscribed to my channel, and I appreciate all of your support, and I hope to have more support on the way. And again, if you have any suggestions or ideas for future videos, let me know, and please feel free to leave comments, and I will do my best to answer every single one of them. I know I've been kind of neglectful on that lately, so I apologize if I haven't gotten back to responding to your comments. And I hope everyone's day is going well, and as a as a friendly reminder, this is a safe and creative space for everybody, so please, no negative or derogatory comments of any kind. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care of yourself and each other.